Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as Fuck,
a podcast where we explore everything outside of the ordinary. I'm Liz Volpe. I'm a social entrepreneur, now psychic medium, teacher and mentor, with a huge passion to inspire people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Diane Driscoll, a coach, facilitator and speaker. I'm also a psychic intuitive, learning to incorporate my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We're here today to share real and raw spiritual stories. It's going to give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way.
We hope you're ready to get spiritual as fuck.
Hey everyone, Liz here. Boy, have I been waiting for this one. In today's episode, Diane and I interview one of Australia's most highly rated psychic clairvoyant and spiritual mediums, David the Medium. With over 50,000 Instagram followers, a booked-out calendar, and a reputation for being incredibly accurate in his readings, I have to admit I was really nervous. And I first found out about David a couple of years ago when I was struggling through my own sudden awakening into mediumship. And at the time, I was really finding it hard to come to terms with what was happening to me. So following David's journey, even though it was from afar, made me feel a little less crazy. So walking into this interview, I definitely felt like a fan meeting their idol for the first time. Luckily, David made us both relax straight away. He really has the most beautiful energy, and within minutes, the convo was flowing and Diane and I were in spiritual heaven. This episode contains so much gold. In fact, I will go as far as saying this interview with David caused a huge shift in me. And the day after recording, I woke up with a whole new outlook on my personal gifts. David shares his pre-medium story of working for the government and randomly finding out that he had the gift of connecting with spirits. He shares his ups and downs, the learnings, and the resistance he had to overcome to his new skill. He shares beautiful stories of real connections that have helped families overcome grief. There will be world predictions that include David's view on what the future looks like for Meghan and Harry. And then at the end, a live reading that is so precise it left Diane and I gobsmacked. Are you ready? I hope you enjoy it. So I have just been saying that today I woke up at like 4 a.m. because I was so excited that we had this wonderful guest in the studio, as you can see, with us today for Spiritual as Fuck. And this person is definitely spiritual as fuck. In fact, months ago, when we first ever came up with this idea of the podcast, we were like, we just need to have someone absolutely amazing that completely embodies what this show is about, being spiritual as fuck. And he just happened to be number one on our list, and we manifested him here today, so check that.
I was going to say, then you invited me instead, because you couldn't get John Edward in.
But he was definitely number 10. He's way down the list. Do not worry. So yeah, we have David the Medium with us today, and I'm sure you probably know who he is. Like, he's got 50,000 followers, he's super famous, and yes, Diane and I are absolutely fangirls of you, so.
Lady, thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to join you both. The pleasure is all mine, and thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
Well, of course. Now, there's something that Diane and I spoke about before this. We were like, you know what? I'm sure David gets asked all the same questions. But what we want to really do is we want to delve right in there. And you've given us a challenge that nothing is off limits.
I did make the error of saying that at the start. That was not an error. I'm open for anything. Yeah, nothing is off limits.
Maybe we'll never say that again after being on this podcast. Let's see. Let's see. What I want to do is I want to go right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So let's pretend that David the Medium doesn't exist. And I want to find out about you as a boy. Like, when did this shit start to happen? Or what did life look like? And you can start wherever you want.
Yeah, well, honestly, for me, as a medium, I didn't realize until I was 24. It wasn't even a realization. I actually got told by another medium when I was 24. So I'm nearly 36 now, so 12 years ago. Growing up, I mean, I always had a strong intuition, I think, and I think my gut feeling was always very switched on. I didn't really think anything of it. I didn't necessarily consider spirituality as really a key point of my life, to be very fair. I wasn't raised religious, so I didn't have a view of the afterlife, and I to be honest, I didn't even really believe in its existence. If anything, I was probably a closed-minded bit of a skeptic in some ways, to be very fair.
Oh my God.
And my background is predominantly corporate, mostly legal, but I was studying counter-terrorism. I volunteered in politics. Like, I was a very black and white, what you say.
So basically the opposite.
Really? Exactly right. Now everything is great. So I was very, very black and white. And yeah, for me, if I couldn't see it, then it didn't exist.
Wow.
So I think I was a closed-minded skeptic. I wasn't really that closed-minded. I mean, I just started a new job in corporate, and it was actually just around the corner from here, actually. And I had a really deep conversation with a colleague who I'd only really known for 5 minutes. And she said, well, have you ever been to a medium? And I was like, well, no, I don't really believe in it, but I'm sure some people get guidance and help from it, and good for that. And she said, I know this lady who's really good. I think you should go visit her. And I was like, for shits and giggles, I was like, why not? Like, what's the worst she's going to do? She's just going to waste an hour of my life. And at that stage, I did have people that had crossed over. So
yeah,
I was like, well, if she's the real deal, then this could be fun. So I went along, and I went into this with the premise of, like, if she asks questions, I'm only going to give her a yes or a no. Like, I'm not going to tell her a thing. Like, I'm going to be really close. But, and, it's so stupid, you know what I mean? But, like, long story short, she blew my absolute mind away. And she said to me, you realize you can do this yourself. And she's like, I thought you knew from the first moment I met you, but the more that we're talking, the more that I realize it's obviously going completely over your head and you're, how you are. No, like I said, I was an obnoxious, bit of a fucking pain. So I was like, oh, no, she's right about everything, but she's wrong about this. So, and anyway, she ran a mentoring class, went along to her mentoring class. Turns out I was...
Well, let me just stop you there a second.
Rewind. Yep.
When she said that to you, you can do this. Tell me what was going on in your mind at that point.
I think I instantly thought, oh, she probably says that to everyone. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like, whatever. Like, I mean, I'd never seen, felt or heard or had really any sort of spiritual inclination or understanding as a child.
Nothing.
Besides really the strong gut feeling that I thought everyone had. In hindsight, obviously, mine was probably a little bit different. But yeah, I never communicated with spirit as a child.
So that's really interesting to me because...
Kids do. More so than adults. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I know that for me... I only kind of came out of my spiritual closet a couple of years ago, and I'm still at the very beginning of my journey. Once the penny dropped, all of a sudden, lots of situations kind of were like, oh, yeah, that was what was happening then. It kind of like all came to the surface.
Yeah.
Did anything happen like that for you?
I was very intuitive. I was as a kid, and I just thought, I mean, when you're a child or when you're a young teenager, you don't really think anything of it. You don't automatically assume that you're connecting with a higher power or that you're got a natural ability that's maybe stronger than most people to connect with spirit. I just thought, I'm smart. I'm so good. I'm switched on. Like, you know what I mean? It's
How do I win this horse race every time?
100% like that arrogance of a child. Like, but even things within my own family, like I could, with, personal family events and stuff, I could always kind of work out what was going on. Or I had an intuition and it's like, no, you need to go to see this. That's
just
really done.
People.
It's kind of understood people, exactly. And, I think both of you, especially you, Liz, can understand it. It's sort of like it's based on intuition, what you feel around everyone around.
But feeling.
It's all about the feeling.
How did you tune in, and then when you start to realize it is the output strong intuition, actually use that as a platform to actually tune into that more and have a guide your life?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's really like a muscle. I call my third eye my spiritual intuition. It's kind of like, a bicep or a pec. I mean, mine are a bit fucking untoned at the moment, but like, the more that you work out, the better that they look and the better that they get. So I found, this lady, she was running the mentoring class and she said that I should come. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was hesitant, but I did it. And then when I went and suddenly tuned in, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I thought she drugged my water with LSD or mushrooms or something, because I was suddenly hearing things and feeling things, and it turns out I could do it. So I found the more that I did that and the more that it opened up. But yeah, I say to everyone, including, my clients as well, it's sort of like if you're open to it, you're 99% of the way there, because you've already brought down that sort of subconscious barrier and that blockage by being receptive and open.
Yes, absolutely. So how did those messages first come? Because you said a little bit of everything, the hearing, the seeing. Because that must have been a bit of a shock to suddenly be like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Well, I think because I was so open to just new experiences, even though I was skeptical about it, I was just excited by it. But
yeah,
the very first moment for me, she had a mentoring class where we were all sitting on a couch on a Wednesday night in the suburbs. Like, it wasn't anything like, la-di-da fancy. And basically she just got each one of us to stand up in front of the room. Like she would open the circle and we'd all sit there and hang out. There was only about 5 or 6 of us. And she would just say, stand up the front of the class. You can close your eyes, you can keep them open, but just say what you feel, say what you hear. If you sense anything, if you want to say anything, just say it. And I'm a short guy, like I'm about 5'8", and I remember standing up in front of the class thinking, oh God, here we go, nothing's going to happen, I'm going to make a dick of myself. And I suddenly felt like I was a really tall, skinny man. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
And I got a really sharp pain in my chest and my legs were tingling. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, and she's like, just say what you're feeling. So I said it all. And then she ended up crying, because she's like, that's my ex-husband. He never comes forward in classes. And that was the very first spirit I ever picked up from. It was a 39-year-old man who was about 6'6" who died from a heart attack.
Did you automatically become her top student?
Well, I think she was threatened by me. No, I just think, no, that's arrogant. She's like, get out of my class. No,
Come back here again.
I know she was a great teacher. She really was. She was so supportive of everyone in the class, and I was just curious. And yeah, the people that had been in the class longer than me, so they definitely had a better idea about what they were doing. And I just loved it. So, and I did that for 2 years. Like, that was the thing. I did classes for a good, 1.5, 2 years.
And did you run home and tell your family and friends?
Yeah, it was only building the muscle. But no, I did. I mean, my mum and my brother, who I was living with at the time, I mean, they weren't skeptical, but they were kind of like me. They were kind of a bit like, what you see is what you get. But they've both had readings with my mentor back in the day as well. And they were open to it. And, they're just supportive about it. That's the thing. I mean, like I said, we weren't raised religious. We didn't have a view of the afterlife necessarily. So I think they were just like, oh, yeah, roll with it. Like, cool.
And that's kind of what you have to do, isn't it? Just absolutely roll with it.
Exactly.
What can you do?
No, what can you do?
What can you do?
Did you have any resistance to it at all? Because, on one hand, you're saying that, skeptic, things are black and white, things are exactly how I see it. But then I'm hearing on the other side, open to anything. You're willing to give it a go. You're jumping in to go on this mentorship program. What came up for you in terms of resistance of saying, can I do this? Am I going to do it? Or did you find it you were just able to go with the flow? Like, what did that feel like?
I mean, you make such a great point. I sound so contradictory, don't I? But no, but that was the thing. No, yeah. But I think at the very start for me, I honestly saw it as for want of a better phrase, like a hobby or a party trick.
Yeah.
Because, to use the term the matrix, but, we all grew up in this environment where, we're taught from a very young age, you have to work and you have to have a salary and you have to do life like this and you have to do life like that. So then to have something like this come in that's so, supernatural and out of the ordinary, it's a bit like, oh, okay, it sort of does change how I think about things. But for me, it really was kind of learning to break out of how I viewed life in a lot of ways. And I loved the challenge of that. I liked how I'd seen everything as black and white, but then I've been proven that there is this other world, and how am I going to encompass that and incorporate that in life that I loved the most? And, as I was saying at the very start, for me, it was kind of more like a party trick. I was like, oh, I can talk to the dead, but, I work in legal during the day and I can never change that because, that's what I've been told to do from a young age. You have to work, you have to have a salary, you have to work 40 hours a week and, make yourself go mentally unwell for the joy of, being able to be around people you don't even really like all day. So it was really a sort of a learning, growing process for me. And I think that's what I loved the most. And then the more that I read people, the more that I was able to see firsthand, the amazingly sort of positive impact it can have on others. And I think deep down anyway, I always, in some aspect, wanted to help people. Whether originally studying counter-terrorism, I was like, I'm going to stop terrorists and that's going to save people. And it's not a hero complex or anything like that, but I just wanted to make sort of, anywhere I could go, I wanted to leave it in a bit of a better place.
Absolutely.
And that was the viewpoint with the structure of the barriers that I was already brought into society. But I wanted to leave the world a better place, but life still had to be like this. And you have to still, follow this path and do this and do this, like the rat race. But then when I was able to see, the first-hand impact of being able to connect, which I'm sure you've seen as well with clients, you're like, no, there is a different world, and I want to explore more into that. And actually, I'm not going to do life like this anymore.
Did you ever get faced with those people around you that just didn't believe it still? They were like, this is all of shit.
100%. I still do. And I'm a gay man, surprisingly. I've been flopping my wrist the whole time, everyone. But like, I say everyone, I found it harder to tell everyone I was a medium than to tell them I was gay. That's the thing. I mean, now kids come out and, it's kind of weird that they're straight these days. But, I'm 35, so coming out 20 years ago, like it still was a conservative place. And I had conservative sort of values myself in a lot of ways. So, when you tell someone you're a homosexual, it's sort of like, well, they either support you or they don't. And either way, I don't care. Like, it doesn't change my life. But everyone understands what homosexuality is. Everyone knows kind of about, how you think and what it entails and everything like that as well. You tell people you're a medium, that goes one of 20 ways. Like, they think you're a Fruit Loop. They are obsessed with it. They love it. They think you're a fraud. They're curious. They don't believe in it. They're very open to it. Like, you really don't know how it's going to go. So a lot of the resistance can be in some ways, and this is a very big growth journey as well. But I did lose friends by telling them I was a medium. Like, I think that really did change the friendship in a lot of ways. My family, fortunately, has always been very open and supportive. But, there's friends that I sort of drifted from, or friends that didn't believe in it. And I was like, well, go ahead, see you later. So the universe kind of did a bit of a spring clean in that way as well.
Wow. Because that must have been so hard. And it is a constant conversation between us. That is something that I'm struggling with now. There's still so many people I would never even say it to. And I'm hoping I get to the stage where I just don't care.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, it is kind of like a spiritual spring clean. If these people are going to support you when you're being authentically you, and you're stepping into your power, then were they really ever going to support you anyway? This is the thing. And even now, they're going, I've been full-time for about, 7 years now, to be very fair.
Wow.
But there's still people, they're like, oh, what do you do for work? And if I don't want to tell them what I do for work, because I just can't be bothered having that conversation, or you don't know the judgment on it, or I don't lie to them. I just say, oh, I've got a legal background. Well, I do have a legal background. I just haven't done it for 7 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. They can't take that away from you. It's still part of who you are. So I am fascinated because I'm corporate background I'm conditioned corporately, in such a strong way. And part of, the journey that I'm on with Liz is very much breaking down a lot of that. How do you go from being ingrained in the corporate world, in legal, in counterterrorism, like it just sounds like such a deep, deep, deep level, to then opening up and completely becoming David the medium?
Well, it's really quite fascinating, because I say that the universe actually forced me. Like, it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision that I made, that I'm like, oh, I'm suddenly going to quit my whole routine and my whole job and actually give this a go. I was very resistant and very hesitant, because it is kind of like stepping into the unknown. And from a younger age, we're not taught really how to do that, or taught that we ever should do that. But we're going back 6-7 years now. This is 2016, and I'd just been on a longer overseas trip to the United States. And keeping in mind, even when I was working in legal, like, I was kind of reading people on the side as well. Like, I was maybe reading 1 or 2 people a week, just because I enjoyed it. And, I was like, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would make a pathway or, a career out of it, really, to be very fair. But I just returned from the United States, and when I was in the US, I was sort of sitting on the beach in Los Angeles one day with a few friends, and we were talking about, me being a medium and how funny it was. And my friend said she was like, you were so skilled at it, or I can't remember the word that she used, but she says, why don't you do it more? And my instant thought was like, well, I can't do it more. I've got this, I'm doing this. I kind of took it a bit sort of personally, like, oh, well, you think I should be doing this more, but I'm studying this, I'm doing this. You don't think that's good enough? Like, it's this whole view of judgment that we always have of how we think other people think about us. And that kind of got the ball rolling in my head. I was like, well, why don't I do it more? Like, I really don't like what I'm doing. I love doing this. Why would you not go down that path? So anyway, I returned from the US. This was mid 2016, or towards the end of 2016. Toxic fucking office environment. Like, this is the federal government legal department, and they were just hopeless, toxic people. Hello, if any are listening. I'll name a few after a drink. But like, but I ended up basically on the verge of getting sacked, and not from anything that I did. It was from office politics, and it was paid back to me that they were going to try and force me out. So I was like, okay. So I quit, and I was nearly 30, and I hadn't finished study properly, and I just quit this job in the Fed, for the public service. I was like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? So the universe was like, well, you're a medium, that's why.
No, he was definitely nudging you.
It really was nudging. It honestly was, in hindsight. And at the time, you think you're having like a breakdown. Yeah. At the time you think you're having a mental breakdown and you're ruining everything, but
Life's over.
100%. And in reality, you just look back in hindsight, you're like, no, that's why everything happens. The universe happens for you, not to you. And when I stopped working full time, I started having people message me, be like, oh, actually, are you ever free during the day? And I was like, well, I am actually, because I'm not working,
Yeah.
properly. And it really just built from there. And I always say to myself, like, the universe does happen for you. It doesn't happen to you. So even through the wildest tragedies of our lives or the best moments of our lives, everything's becoming a jigsaw piece that really does help shape your future and shape your sort of soul journey and life path.
Absolutely. I mean, that sounds like you've been completely divinely guided. And
100%. Like, it wasn't me, because if it was up to me, I would have stuck with what I knew, if that makes sense, because I wouldn't have had necessarily the courage or the forthright sort of drive to really throw away everything that I knew to then venture into this grey area. But the universe is like, no, like, we're sick of you not paying attention. You're going to do it now.
I would love to know what David, pre-David the Medium, would have thought if you had said to yourself, the universe happens for me back in, say, 2010 rather than 2016. It's like when we're out, it's like, what do you mean?
I know, like, I wish I could go back and talk to him for like 5 minutes, just go in a time machine, because he would honestly call the police on me. Like, what a Fruit Loop.
What would you say? What would you say, David, if you had that opportunity? Because so many of the people that we want to connect with are people who are on that journey of their mind is blowing. They think that they're losing their mind. What would you say to yourself if you could go back to 2010 or even before that? So before things really started to wrap up for you, what would you say?
That's a great question. I mean, spirituality aside, first and foremost, I tell him to pluck his eyebrows. That's for sure. He needs to do that instantly. And there is a thing called fake tan. You can use it. No, I think I mean, it's such an interesting question. I've honestly never really thought about it. I wouldn't know where to begin, because I'd just instantly say it's sort of like, life doesn't have to be how you see it. You have, and this is for everyone, it's not even just for the three of us, but you have the ability to wake up every morning and redefine your life and your soul journey and your pathway how you want. Nothing is written in stone. Nothing is forever. And nothing is unchangeable. Like, the one constant we have in life is change. So embrace it, and just go on a discovery. And I'd probably say, by the way, like, mediumship, like, look into it. Like, if we get started 6 years earlier, we're going to be here. Like, stuff like that. So I would love that. I mean, Diane, if you could go back to you from 2010, what would you say?
If I could go back now, I think the one piece of advice I would give myself is that your mental health is related to your spiritual journey. I don't think I would have understood what that meant at that point in time, but it wasn't until I stopped thinking I was crazy that I actually stopped being crazy and just started to embrace a lot of the things that you're talking about. Now, obviously, my gifts, we'll call it, are very different, but it's still that anything is possible. Embrace the change, just embrace who you are and be the fullest aspect or expression of yourself that you can be. But I know if I said that to myself back in 2010, she'd probably still be saying, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
She wouldn't. She'd be like, what drugs are you taking?
Exactly. That's why it's so great to reflect on it. I mean, what would you tell yourself?
It's such a tough one, because my life was like completely different at that point. I had a huge business. I think I probably had 60 or 70 staff in 2010. And, my life was very much me living in my ego, honestly.
So was it, yeah.
I was just making money and partying hard and like living this life that must have looked really great, but underneath I was probably a bit lonely and a bit unhappy and very disconnected spiritually. So although I'd always understood my intuitive side, I actually at some point purposely disconnected from it. It was probably a bit too scary, and I think I would probably tell myself to sort that out, because life probably would have been a bit easier and I would have been a lot more in the flow.
Yeah, and I mean, when we look back as well, everything, we've said it 10 times already, even today, but everything does happen for a reason. Everything is a lesson, 100%. And I, even giving it a bit more thought now, I probably wouldn't tell David to change a thing. Maybe change the mindset, but it's still, everything I've done is a lesson of what I've learned. But, I go, fast forward to 2023 David now. And like, I've got this spiritual understanding, but I still embrace the human side a lot as well. Like, that's the thing. And I think for all spiritual people or all people with a spiritual inclination, the biggest thing to remember is that being spiritual isn't a personality trait. It doesn't make you who you are. And at the end of the day, regardless of your beliefs or your understandings, you're actually still human. So you still have to live that human experience, and you still have to live that human life, and you can still make money and go party and actually have fun. But it's the element that they don't operate exclusively or, different to each other. They run as the same thing. You are the human, but you can also be the spirit.
Yeah, because I mean, from your Instagram, you look like you live a human life as well.
But Instagram isn't real, you know what I mean? Well, my friends she says, you always post your holidays. I'm like, I've got to let them haters know. Sort of like, I ain't going overseas and drinking a cocktail and not letting everyone know about it. I'm like, that's the ego talking, but that's okay.
Ego is very important too. Now, I want to step into the shoes of someone that comes for a reading with you, because who normally comes? Like, do you find it's someone that is in that place of grief, or tell me a little bit about those people and I guess what they ask.
Yeah, I would say, unfortunately, but also I guess fortunately in some ways, with me being able to help connect with them, but 99% of my clients are coming to me because they have lost someone who was special and close to them in the physical world. So for me, most of it is all about connection with the afterlife and being able to pass on messages of validation, support, guidance, and clarity. And as a medium, I see, hear, and feel spirit. And I am also psychic, so I can sort of see timelines in some aspects and provide guidance and clarity on direction and also things going on in day-to-day life right now.
Do you ever find out about yourself?
No, and that's much like the thing. Can you ever read yourself in? No, see, a lot of us can't. I can feel my loved ones around me, but I can't talk to them like I will talk to everyone else's, or I can't necessarily receive messages from them like I will from everyone else. And I understand that as well. And I know a lot of mediums can't, to be fair, because my mum's my best friend. And if she died, I would spend 24/7 in my head with her, wouldn't I? That's the thing. Yeah. So we're not meant to be able to connect, because at the end of the day, we're still living the human experience, and we're still here because we're learning things and we're growing. And if we're spending all our waking hours with the afterlife, then we're not doing anything down here that we're meant to be doing. So I do understand it, but it doesn't make it any less annoying.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. Is there like a memorable reading that not only blew the person's mind, but just blew yours? I'm sure there's been many of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's two that always come to mind if I ever think about that question, because as a medium, and whether you ladies are the same when you have a spiritual connection, but I don't remember what I say. Like, I literally am the medium. So when I connect, I pass on messages, but they don't stay with me because they don't come from me. So even by the end of the day, I'll kind of forget what I've said to someone at the very start of the day. That being said, there are two spirits that I have been utterly obsessed with over my career as a medium, and I'll mention it by name. One is a beautiful young girl called Lily DeHaas, who I've read her whole family. Her beautiful parents, Simone and Christian DeHaas. Lily was a young girl, I think she was only about 7 or 8 years old, who unfortunately died of a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
But I can go some talk about it. But as a spirit, Lily, she wasn't human. She was just, she's like an archangel god. I mean, she's just such a special young girl as a spirit. And I still remember her reading because she was riding around on the back of a lion. And she was just being so visual, and she was so clear with her messages. And she said she was just such a special young child in the physical world. But as a spirit, I mean, she just wasn't human. She really wasn't. Like, she was this next level. And I'll never forget Lily. And I've been fortunate enough to read her mum a few times. Her mum's also a medium, which I like as well. But her mum, Simone, is just so beautiful. And the other one was, there's an American-Australian actress called Jane Badler. And her son, unfortunately, crossed over in the United States. She's American heritage. And he was in LA when he crossed over in 2020. And Harry was only in his late 20s as well. And I'll never forget Harry. Like, he was, again, not human. Like,
And when you say that, is that around like how you feel their energy?
Yeah, well, I mean, Harry, even in the physical world, was very non-binary, androgynous, an incredible creative energy. Like, he was into fashion, and he was a singer, musician, And his whole viewpoint and his whole mantra was he just wasn't human, even when he was in the physical world. And Harry directed his mum straight to me. I read for Harry's partner, who lives in America as well. And even before I read for Harry's partner, I was having dreams where Harry was in my dreams and we were all in LA together. Like Harry, like I also thank Harry for my love of Lana Del Rey. Because I was into Lana Del Rey and then Harry was obsessed with it. And then he played a few songs in my head during the reading when I was reading his mum, and I've listened to Lana Del Rey every single day since. Wow. So,
My God.
Yeah, Harry and Lily are standout spirits, that's for sure. Standout souls.
Even how you share their stories is so beautiful. Like you're radiating, like you're there with them when you're telling the story. It's beautiful.
It's special. Like, I've never had spirits come into my dreams like that before, and I know like it was me, Harry, and his partner sitting down, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like, yeah.
Wow, I just can't even imagine what you gave to their family, especially when someone has lost a child.
It's the most tragic thing, exactly. There's no loss like a parent losing a child, that's the thing. So,
and I can just imagine like the only thing that as a parent you'd want is just to know that they were still there.
yeah.
So to be able to give them that is just something else.
Yeah, no, I'm the fortunate one. You know, that's the thing, to be able to connect with them and their families in the physical world, like Jane and Lily's family are just, you know, they're so beautiful. They're such lovely people. So, yeah.
God, isn't it just something that you just all want to be able to do?
Yeah, well, everyone can, you know.
Is that what you think?
I am a very strong, I mean, God, if I can do it, anyone can do it. That's how I view it. But, you know, I say constantly, we're all souls having a human experience. We're not humans having a soul spiritual experience. There's nothing special about me necessarily. Everyone can sing. Not everyone sounds like Pavarotti. But I just had a natural ability to sing, I think. But
I love that.
Everyone can do singing classes. Everyone can train their voice.
I love that. And that's what we say all the time, isn't it? Is that, you know, everybody has that ability to be able to tap into these senses and shit will happen to them all the time. It's just that there's just no awareness on
Well,
it.
that's the thing. Everyone's got gut feelings. Everyone has intuition. Everyone has foresight and, you know, connections. Like I said, they just may be unaware of it or they don't know how to necessarily call on it. But everyone feels something. Everyone listening will be able to be like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone that might be listening?
Yeah.
Yeah, would there be something you go like, if someone's listening right now and they're like, oh, you know, I wish that I could be more spiritually connected, where would they start or where should they start?
Honestly, being open, like I said before, being open to it means you're 99% of the way there. It's just about trusting and building on your intuition already. Like if you're feeling things, then trust it. If you're feeling the need to say things to other people, then say it. The more that you, again, train that muscle and the more that you're open and expressive by it, the more that it will get stronger. The universe and spirit, they want us to be able to do this. They don't want it to be a special little club where certain people throughout society are able to connect with them. They want literally every single person to be able to connect with them. So it's a remembrance at the same time that it's not all on us. You know, we are in a team and we are in a group with them as well. So the more that we allow them in, the better it will get. But also, I mean, it's also spiritual health as well. Like, get the mind, the body, and the soul operating properly. Eat healthy, exercise, sleep right, meditate, like really encompass everything into one and be open.
And quit your government job.
And quit your fucking government job with toxic assholes. Like, yeah.
Number one on the list.
I leaned into the microphone to say someone's name there, but I was like, oh no, we don't want to get sued in the first few episodes. You know who you are.
Exactly, speaking.
So you mentioned spiritual practices there, and Liz and I share a lot of, you know, notes with each other or kind of, hey, what are you doing? What's working for you? Because it seems to change and evolve over time. What do you do? Like, do you have like some spiritual practices that are your absolute go-to that help keep you either grounded or help you connect? Can you share any of that with us?
Yeah, and honestly, I probably just should do more than I do, but I do try and meditate quite often as well. Like, especially as a psychic, I get a lot of my psychic vision from meditation and sort of just general understanding. So I honestly type it into YouTube. I do frequency meditations like sound bowl, sound healing, just musical frequencies. And I do that before I go to bed, but it's about setting in intention as well. Like I will sit down in bed, close my eyes and be like, all right, I want to go into a past life, or I want to see about this, or I want to, you know, you can create your own journey with it. And then I just allow my mind, body, and soul to take me there. And I think the biggest misconception about meditation that a lot of people have is that we have to sit there in complete silence and turn our mind off to relax. It's a complete opposite. You just have to focus and center and allow your mind to travel wherever it wants. And if it gets loud and if you can't focus, also completely fine. And
Love that, actually.
yeah, it's really important to remember. Like, you don't need to turn the mind off and, sit there with your hands going, oh, like, complete opposite.
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, do we look like monks?
We end up, we're definitely not monks. Not us, but it is, we give ourselves a hard time, and this meditation's still working for me because I can't quiet my mind. And it's like, well, go wherever it wants you to go, or bring it back if you're trying to bring back to be a little bit more centered. There's no right and no wrong way to do it. It's just tuning out some of the other things that are going on in the world, and a lot of those shoots and musts and conditioning that we have associated.
That's the thing. Like, people are like, oh, I can't make my mind quiet. Listen to your mind then. What's it actually saying? Like, what does it want you to pay? Where does it want to lead you? Go on that journey with your own bloody mind. You don't have to turn it off. You should be doing the opposite in a lot of ways as well. But even, besides meditation, everything is energy, and, science understands that as well. So it's not a spiritual woo-woo kind of term. Like, everything is actually energy. So the more that you focus on it, the more that it can be manipulated as well. So I'm a very strong believer in manifestation, and even doing things like vision boards. It's just about you create that energy, you put it out there. And everyone understands the law of attraction in some forms as well. Like, it really is that you see, believe, and you will receive.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest spiritual hack of the whole planet. You show the universe what you want and how that will make you feel. And the universe is like, okay, let's go. But the universe doesn't owe us a thing. It's not going to change your life unless you make the proactive steps to change it first. But when you're in alignment with where you're meant to be, the universe will match you. And that's the biggest spiritual hack that I could tell anyone.
Isn't that just something
Absolutely.
that everybody needs to hear?
Yeah. And you create that little energy ball, and you grow that energy ball like a plant, and the universe will water it.
That's it. It's not just going to happen. You've got to.
And even for those listening who are the skeptics who are listening to us and thinking, yeah, I've heard all of this before, I would encourage them to treat it like an experiment. Just give it a go. Try it. Pick something, even if it is a vision board for this year, or something that you're working on. The intention and setting your energy at that level, it is life-changing.
And that's the thing. It just comes down to belief as well. Like, even if you do it, but you don't believe that it's going to work, well, why would the universe match you on that? Because if you don't believe it's going to work, then the universe won't either. That's the thing. You have to have this understanding and this belief that you deserve it. And whether it is anything material or whether it's just a positive life change, like, that's your journey. You deserve to have good things happen to you. And I think a lot of people don't have that mindset where we're kind of taught at a younger age again that if we want better for ourselves, then we're somehow arrogant, or, we're not tall poppy, all they need to be cut down. But it's like, you actually do deserve the best life you can create for yourself. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask firstly about the world predictions.
Well, predictions.
Yeah.
Same. I've been itching to get here.
There we go. Yeah, because I know that when I first came across your Instagram, I think it was around the world predictions, and it was in COVID, and all of us living in Melbourne struggled through COVID, and it was really interesting for me to kind of like listen and watch what you were saying around these world predictions. And I'd love for you to share how that came about, how all of a sudden are you getting these predictions through, and how do you feel to start throwing them out there?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I mean, my original profile as David the Medium actually did build really at the start of 2020 when I was talking about COVID before COVID existed, essentially. So that's where I sort of came from. Now, I actually thought it was going to be a world war, but we were talking about how there was going to be very, very huge changes at the start of 2020 that were really going to shift the world into a completely new world. And it was going to really change society. And I was like, oh God, here we go. And I referenced it in some ways. And this was just through meditations I had, but also conversations I was having with other very close spiritual friends, that we could all have that uneasiness in our stomach. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt it without even really realizing. But I referenced it to kind of standing on the beach watching the tsunami come towards us, knowing that we can't outrun it. You just got to hold your breath and go through it. So we had even key dates, like mid-January was always going to be a defining date. And that's really when COVID kind of started making mainstream news in some ways.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of grew from there. And I've got to be honest, I was terrified of COVID at the start because I honestly believed it was about to kill 1/5 of the world's population.
And is that what you were feeling or getting?
Yeah, I just felt so uneasy, and I was doing deep meditations. And I mean, I've even talked about this, back at the time in 2020, but I don't know whether either of you have ever seen or read the Stephen King book / movie, The Stand. Have you ever seen? Oh, it's such a great movie and book. But essentially, it's about a virus that escapes a medical facility in America, and within a month, it ends up killing 99.9% of the world's population.
Oh my God.
And when I was meditating on sort of this COVID-y sort of feeling, I wasn't calling it COVID back then. I was actually calling it, what was I? We'll get into another part of that actually. But I kept visualizing in my head the beginnings of that movie.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh God. And then I even said at the time, I was like, COVID's come from a medical lab. It's not naturally occurring. And then, that was a conspiracy theory. And everyone was like, oh, you can't be saying that. And now it's basically a proven fact. Like everyone knows now that COVID really wasn't from a wet market. But that's where I came from. And then, I even at the start of February, all my friends thought I was nuts, but I was like, start stockpiling food. Start stockpiling medicines because there is going to be empty shelves. I was doing meditations and seeing people fighting and empty shelves. I was like, something's going on. COVID, for example, was very good because I was fearful at the very start. I think everyone was. We've never been through anything like that. It created this whole chain reaction.
Have you had any really funny predictions that come to mind where you're like, oh my God, I said that?
It's always really stupid things for me. I mean, off the top of my head now, I'm trying to think. I know there was a few, but a lot of mine are really serious. Like I'm just that downer that always predicts death and war, really, to be fair. But it's always this, I can't think.
Like someone's been pregnant or celebrity news or anything that pops in.
It's usually actually in day-to-day readings when I can pick up on really silly things that happen to people. Like I can definitely sort of predict pregnancies for certain people and things like that. In terms of a global thing, I did a lot of work on the American election in 2020, which was a lot of fun because when that was all falling into line, there's some really fun things there. But I think 2023, I kind of tried to avoid the whole royals as well because I kind of got too deep into that, and then that just gave me a headache. But my original thing actually, it started off funny, but now the royals are kind of getting really messy. But when Harry and Meghan got engaged, I've got the text message as well. A friend sent to me, and she says, "Oh, they just got engaged. What do you think will happen?" This was back in, when did they get engaged? 2018, when it was. And I said, oh, it's going to be terrible. I was like, she's going to separate Harry from his family. The Queen and Kate don't like her. And I said, they're going to get moved, and they're going to end up moving, and this will be a huge frash. And Meghan was very popular at the start. People were very fascinated and had a very positive opinion of Meghan Markle. So it was very interesting that I was just like, oh, something's going on there. And I wrote a list and I said, they will get married, they will have family arguments, they will have a child, there will be the separation from the family. And I said, the first child will be the boy. And then I said, then they have the girl. And then I said, and then they get divorced.
Well, that is pretty spot on.
I know, and it's basically the separation of Harry and Meghan is the final piece of the puzzle, but everything else has just to come to fruition now. Now, I did say that their energy window for marital argument and separation opened up mid-2022. So we're already about 7-8 months into that now. But really from mid-2022 is when the shit really started hitting the fan for them. Because that's when, I don't know whether that was the Oprah interview or not, but that's when the family got very toxic. Now Harry's just lost his bloody mind now. So I think their journey in 2023 will be very interesting. I'm not necessarily saying outright that they will divorce, but it is inevitable that they will. There's no doubt about that. And maybe it might happen this year as well. But I also see Harry and Meghan as a very strong spiritual sort of mirror for a lot of people as well, because none of us know them personally. And this is very triggering when I say this to some of my friends as well, but also in public circles as well, because Harry and Meghan worldwide now represent our view on relationships. Most connectively, being romantic relationships. Now, most people may agree, but I see Meghan Markle as a completely abusive partner. For me, she's the epitome of an abusive relationship, and I think Harry is no better in himself, but they're both essentially lost souls that have got together. But because we don't know them, we look at their relationship, and everything in life anyway, what we see in it is what we feel internally, because that's how we project out and what we view. But if you look at Harry and Meghan as a beautiful relationship and they're being targeted by the world, then that mirrors into you that there is an abusive part of your past or current relationship that you need to heal, I say. But if you look at Harry and Meghan and you can see, abusive traits or toxic traits, then it means that either you've healed your own toxic relationship or you've never been in one.
Wow.
And I won't name any of my friends, of course, but I look at some of my friends that are very strong Meghan and Harry supporters. And I can look at them and I was like, they're either in very toxic, abusive relationships at the moment, or they haven't healed past ones.
Oh my God. I'd love to hear what you think about this, everyone. That's really interesting.
Exactly. The layers, and allow that one to settle. I can see myself just letting that one percolate through. That's pretty huge.
Work out what the trigger is, because that's what needs to be focused in healing. Yeah.
Oh.
Triggers are a gift. Absolutely. I have to say, just watching both of you here, because both of you are psychic mediums. I'm not. And I'm looking at both of you, and what I'm thinking as I'm watching both of you is there is probably so much going on in both of your minds. And now I had this conversation with Liz anyway, but it's like, how do you function? What comes through when you're sitting here? We're just doing a podcast. Are there things coming through to you that you're actually pushing away, that you're holding off to one side, whether it is a world prediction, whether it is a spirit who wants to connect? What is that like for you? This is just me being the observer thinking, wow, how do you cope with this every day?
Yeah, well, I'm going to hear about yours as well, definitely. But for me, I mean, I've got very, very strong boundaries, and that's something that I've trained over time as well. It's kind of like that muscle again. So if I did randomly just walk down the street, I probably could tune into people, but for my own sort of health and well-being, like I don't want to. So, I mean, coming into this space, you know, I understood sort of that I am coming in as David the medium, I'm not coming in as David in this. So the barrier is a little bit lower, so you definitely sort of pick up on intuitions and things like that. But in general, I've got a very strong boundary that I place, a sort of protective bubble. So I, in 23 of the 24 hours of a day, won't feel much at all. Then coming in here, I was like, I didn't feel things. Yeah, maybe I'm so used to that I don't even pick up on it. How did that? I mean, now I say like I'm interviewing you, Liz, but like, how do you find it? Are you able to shut off easily, or like what sort of spiritual practice do you use to protect your own energy? Like, do you feel anything now? Like, how does this work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just learning the whole boundaries thing. But the first few weeks of me kind of having this big awakening, I was walking around with my bloody head in the sky, literally feeling, hearing everything. Until someone taught me, well, you can just actually set some rules.
Yeah, but it's a question.
It's that easy.
It literally is, isn't it?
Just tell them to go away and only come to me when I ask. So yeah, I mean, I've got some good boundaries in place. And all I find now is that when I'm actually with someone that I know has a similar spiritual belief as me, I tend to allow myself to open up a little bit more, where I might be able to pull something through. But nowadays, it's not that I just walk down the street and get anything through, really.
Yeah.
But I do have to do a lot of grounding, because I get super like floaty. I'm in the clouds half the time unless I'm grounding.
No, I should. Yeah, I mean, grounding is something that I definitely probably need to work on a lot better myself. It's very fair. Like, you know, I'm not in any means, solid and perfect when it comes to sort of spiritual practice. That's for sure. But it's all a learning experience at the same time. But yeah, I definitely need to ground more.
I find it actually funny, because I love to experiment anyway. So I'm like, I'm going to do these few readings. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to go out there and pick the kids up from school just to see how I feel. And I can never hold a conversation with any mums. But anyway, on that note, do you pick up anything?
No, I was like,
we've got to ask, haven't we? We've got to ask.
Well, listen, so this is actually probably a first for me, to be very fair, because when I open up as a medium, I open up to who's in the room. But I've either got everyone on Zoom or everyone in the room with me. I've never actually had people in two locations at once.
A first for David, the medium.
So this could be the end of David the medium. I've ruined my ability, and I'll crash and I'll never be able to read again. So, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I understand there's obviously Irish and English connections here as well, but I honestly don't know who this is for. So I'm just going to sort of talk and sort of see where we go with it. But we did have an older gentleman who was making his presence clear, who references being the partner of the mother. So whether either of your mothers unfortunately had a partner that did cross over, there is a reference of a C-O-N or a con, like K-O-N.
I knew this was for you straight away.
Okay, I'm going to get teary-eyed because I do, but that's okay. My mum's partner passed away, and his name is Connie.
Perfect, good.
And so you said partner of the mother, and you said C-O-N. Like, it doesn't get any closer.
And that was the thing for me. So that's not your father, understandably, because for me it was the
not my father
of the mother. So that's the thing. It didn't have to be.
Yes.
Both your parents are separated. Is that correct? Yeah, perfect. So yeah, we're all in the same crew there. So yeah, well the con sound for me really does want to step forward. He does validate that been in your mother's life for quite a long time, but he did also pass away quite a longer time ago at the same time. Now there is a reference of the Irish connection, of course. We're not Northern Irish here because we are sort of going towards Dublin area. Now I don't know whether he was born or lived in Dublin or whether the family. Someone said like Dull, like D-U-L. I don't know whether that makes sense with anything. But he says. He was also a father himself, but he's grateful for getting to know her, Dave. Getting to know you, because it's sort of like she's a special girl, Dave, and I'm glad that even though she was older when I came into her life, he says her Pat and I had great times. Who's Pat?
My mother's name is Patricia.
Patricia.
Now, he doesn't call her Pat, but
No,
still,
but he's
that's another. You can't make that up.
Yeah, because they will shorten their names to me sometimes to get letters in. And Pat's mother, I think, is also here as well, because we've got an older female, as we referenced Pat. There's an older female that is sort of stepping forward. Has anyone unfortunately lost an actual father? So
No.
this might again might actually be Pat's father. I mean, I know as adults it may not be a surprise that our grandparent Angie may have crossed over, of course. But Con definitely wants to say hello. He's quite a character. Like, I don't think he takes anything in life very seriously. And then there's Richard's mother. Who's Richard?
Oh, Rich is my dad.
Oh wow. Okay. So now so your grandmother. So Richard's mother.
Yeah.
Perfect. And your mum's still Earthside, is that correct? Perfect. Yeah, because there is a reference of the mother Angie saying hello to you, but Richard's mother says hello. I mean, we're going through Yorkshire area here as well, but understandably we've got an English connection. And how's this is fascinating for me because we're kind of gone into a whole new level where we've got yours for a term and every 4 years we've got yours going through. So I'm just going to say things, and I honestly don't know who it's for, to be very fair. But there's a reference of like, don't rent the house to Bucks parties.
That could be for both, though. That one could it?
Because
Is that more for you?
well, there's someone, or it could be both of you again, that has either just listed a property for rent or has one available for rent. So on like Stays, Airbnb, kind of like the rental property market.
Literally, in the
Both of
last
us,
week,
we-
I have done that, and my
Yeah,
biggest
both of
fear
you have
has
done it.
been.
That's probably why I got a little bit confused because I was like, "Any this is for?" So well, he's got the white. Are both the houses white? I mean,
Mine is.
oh, how was it?
This is yours. Yeah.
So it's a common color for a house, to be very fair. Anyway, is yours near water though? Yeah, perfect. And yours is more sort of country.
Yes,
Yeah,
country.
perfect. And I can't
So
see
you
like
picked
green
that
and
up,
trees,
Jer?
but then
Yeah.
well, bucks is a very Australian term. I don't know whether you call it bucks in Ireland or not, but for me, it would just be the symbol of essentially young guys having a party, to be very fair. Yours is really quite cute, and it's a really nice place, and there was a lot of stress around getting it rolling because apparently you didn't have much time to do it, or she kind of had to rush and get everything boiling because it's sort of like, and when she was over there, which would have been Ireland, it's sort of like, she had a million and one things to do, but then we had this to do, and then all this was kind of happening. Whereas less yours, you've kind of been able to chill into it a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Story of my life right now.
Yeah. But definitely for Patricia, Connie definitely wants to reach out and say hello. The understanding that even though he did pass a longer time ago, that she still does talk to him every day and does really sort of pray and grieve for him. And he's very acknowledgeable of that as well, because he's very grateful that even though he met her later in life, that he was able to get onto her very quickly as well, if that makes sense, in terms of being able to lock her down and form that bond and that relationship throughout everything that they went through, that we finally got there. Did he have a heart attack? Yeah, I just got very sharp pain through here. And that was the thing, because for him it's very, you just said the word anyway, but it's very sudden and or unexpected. He does reference a very quick passing. He also validates that there's a sporting club that honours him as well. So I don't know what sport that is, to be very fair, because it's probably not AFL.
It's Gaelic, Irish, Gaelic, GA, Irish.
I don't think I've ever brought up Gaelic football already. But it is Irish anyway, but there's a lot of greens everywhere as well. So whether the club is green or whether, everything in Irish is green, because it also rains a lot. So it's beautiful and great. It was wishing me a happy birthday, which I know why, because my birthday is March 17th, St. Pat's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
He loves St. Patrick's
Yeah,
Day.
that's the thing, because I was like, why is he freaking in my birthday? But he's Irish as if to want. So yeah, I guess if he loves St. Patrick's Day, it's probably why he wants to make a point of it as well. But Really, there is just a big circle around both of you of just, everyone that you would, want to be there, I have no doubt would be there. And I always say for everyone, not just, for both of you, but even for me as well, get into the habit of asking questions, asking for support, asking for validation, asking for guidance, asking for clarity. I do it before I go to bed. The more that we include our loved ones in our day-to-day life, the more that they'll make it very clear to us that they are around us and that they do have our best interests at heart and they do want to be there and assist and support us. It's no less devastating when we lose someone that we love, even if you are a medium, because it doesn't mean that you miss them anymore.
Absolutely.
But it definitely can help with the healing journey when you understand that they are still around you, essentially. And my whole motto and my whole mantra in life, I want every single person on the planet to know that this is a thing and that your loved ones are still there and they are still supporting and wanting to be a part of your day-to-day life. And the more that we break down that barrier, the more it will.
And
You've given us such a gift.
we could keep talking to you forever.
Your turn now.
I'm sure there are so many people listening to this that are like, oh my God, where can I find you? Can I have a reading? Like, where should everybody go?
So all my appointments are released through my website, which is davidthemedium.com. I'm actually changing the structure of how I release appointments this year because I always used to do sort of big releases of a few months ahead. But now I'm only releasing appointments usually on the weekends, everybody says Saturday, Sunday, for the week ahead. It's just so it's easy to structure my calendar, but also people don't have to wait as long.
Yeah.
So you can definitely sign up to the mailing list via my website, davidthemedium.com. For sort of bigger, if there is going to be bigger general releases in the future, we'll definitely do a mailing list email, but also just for general deals and sort of offers and collaborations that I have going on, just, to touch base. And for day-to-day updates on life and spirituality and everything, David the Medium. And also for last-minute appointments, I will post on my social media, which is Instagram at David the Medium, all one.
And we both highly recommend you follow him and continue to get this wisdom. I feel like you're a bit of a guru of secret. All this wisdom and learnings today.
Absolutely. And being able to, so much has come to life. You've given both of us such gifts here in what you've shared. And, everything you've said has been validated in some way. And of course, none of it scripted, none of it pre-planned. You don't know very much about either one of us. So, highly recommended. It's just fantastic. Thank you.
Amazing. So thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. That was just unreal. I'm going to try and quickly get onto your mailing list so I can book an appointment. But thank you so much for coming in, and hopefully we'll see more of you and more positive world predictions very soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, David.
That's it for another episode.
Thank you for listening. Did you know that we are building a movement of 1 million people who are spiritual as fuck? We would love for you to join us. You can start by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I'm going to intuitively choose one person and do a psychic reading for you. So,
follow us on Instagram, send in your stories and topic suggestions, and join the movement
at spiritual.a.f. Until next time.
This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.